It was our 12-week appointment, and we headed to the OB office where he recommended that I get an NIPT test done, which is a non-invasive screening test that tests for different types of trisomies. And it's also a way to find out early gender. So I was on board. 2 weeks went by, and my husband and I went into the OB office to find out what the gender was going to be. And the doctor walked in, and he had kind of a somber feel to him. He didn't quite seem like his usual self. And he walked in and he looked at my husband and I and he said, you want to know the gender, right? And we nodded our heads yes. And he said, you're having a boy, but your test came back positive for trisomy 21, Down syndrome. And I looked at my doctor and I said, how can that be? I'm only 26 and this is my first baby. And he referred us to a geneticist, which we couldn't see for the next 24 hours. And the doctor continued on with his appointment. And he did an ultrasound where he was taking screenshots of the baby and passing pictures of him to me. And I just remember I couldn't look at the doctor, I couldn't look at my husband, and I certainly couldn't look at the pictures that he was handing to me. So I took the pictures and just passed them to my husband. The appointment ended and the doctor walked out, and my husband walked over and he gave me a hug, and I sat in that little OB office and I sobbed. I was grieving the loss of the baby that I thought I was going to have. We went home that night and just spent hours researching on Google about Down syndrome, which I do not recommend doing for any moms who are in a similar situation. Google can feel really scary, and a lot of old information that is no internet can tell you what your child is going to be capable of or what kind of future your child will hold. And we walked in that next day to our geneticist appointment, where she let us know that it was actually more of a 50% chance that we would have a child with Down syndrome rather than 90 because of my age, because I was only 26 rather than 35, which that's what the test was designed for. And she recommended amniocentesis to confirm. And I chose to forego amnio. I was madly in love with the baby that was growing inside my belly, Down syndrome or not. And I didn't want to risk any chance of miscarriage.
Gigi. Hey you. Gigi. Can you hear mommy? So we went the next 26 weeks not knowing if Joshua would have Down syndrome, and I remember each appointment our OB would push me to get amnio, and I looked him in the eyes and I said, do not ask me again. We are leaving our son's future up to God. The time came to finally give birth, and you can imagine all the anticipation. But Joshua came fairly quickly, and when he came out, there was no cry. And I looked around the room at the nurses and anyone I could make eye contact with, and just yelling, is he okay? Is my baby breathing? And what felt like an eternity passed, and finally I heard him crying. And the doctors had to pry the umbilical cord off of his neck so he could breathe. And we had the entire NICU team. We had a NICU team in our room just in case, because they knew of our chances of having a child with Down syndrome. So they were ready, and they passed him over immediately to the NICU team, where they started examining and looking for signs and suctioning, and
I didn't even know if he had Down syndrome yet. And I looked over at my sister-in-law who was holding my hand next to me, and I said, "Is he okay?" And she said, "He's perfect." And they finally passed him to me, and I knew the second I saw him that he had Down syndrome. But in that moment, I didn't care. I just wanted to hold him and protect him and make sure he knew that he was so loved and so wanted.
Fast forward 19 whirlwind months, and Joshua is a wild, crazy toddler who loves to read books. He's learning to walk. He loves to play and giggle. He has a crazy obsession with Dad. And when we look at him, we don't see Down syndrome. We just see Joshua, and he was uniquely and beautifully made, and we would not change one thing about him.
Such a talker.